Hi, my name is Victor Young. I'm a writer and an organizer. If I were stranded on a desert island, I feel like the answer I should be giving is a piece of paper and a pen or a notebook or one of my favorite books. I think the answer I would give is having a group of a few of my friends. And for me, for a lot of us, I think art is, in making art and enjoying art is a matter of survival, and being on a desert island is also a matter of survival. And for me, friends have been what have tided me through all of it, have been the people who I talk to when I have my first ideas, are the people who give me ideas, are the people who help me work through them. And I can't imagine being on a desert island without my greatest creative tool, which is people who I love. Yeah. I think there's the answer of being a kid trying to understand the world and not finding answers around me except in books. And I think there's also the story of being a young queer person of color trying to figure out who I was in the world. And when I was coming out at the end of college, I've heard different versions of the story from different people about how nerds figure themselves out through books, which this is not a surprise, but looking toward the AIDS activist movement, the US AIDS activist movement in particular, a group of people of color in Philadelphia, queer people of color, and I followed them around for 3 or 4 years, and in doing that, started interviewing them, hanging out with them, going to activist meetings, hanging out at bars, going to protests, being invited to their Thanksgiving dinners, and hearing their stories. And it was part of my, formerly it was my graduate school education. It was for my PhD. And at the end of it, I turned in the 100, whatever, however many 100,000 words you have to write to get a degree. And at the end of it, I was like, wow, these people's stories are so interesting, and the way that I rendered them for the sake of an academic thesis was so boring. And I was like, I want to be able to write stories about people and things that I care about in ways that are interesting, accessible to more people than the tiny squirrely circle of academia. And started thinking and practicing the craft of creative writing a bit more seriously. I never thought I'd be a writer. Every time I teach a writing workshop, a big reason I teach writing is, and one of the big hopes that I have when I teach writing is to invite people into a space to think of themselves as writers when they maybe never have associated that label with themselves before. So say in a college context, my favorite kind of students are the ones who have never taken a writing class before, have never been in an English classroom before. I never took a writing class in college. It was never something I considered doing. And I think for me, if I were to talk about how I got there, I think there's like a chain of stories, but the most proximate chain is transitioning from an organizer to being an organizer and a writer. It's always been, I think, in challenging times, the work of artists and academics and activists doing that work of imagination. And I think that is the number one thing we need in times like these. The question of what to do next is always the question of how do I continue returning to the origin of finding the things that I've always been curious about, and the things that have always given me pleasure, and the things that always give me wonder. I hope that we can continue to practice the art of really seeing each other and seeing ourselves, and to hold on to or to recover the sense that I think all of us had as kids of looking to the person next to us and asking, hey, do you want to be my friend? Or of looking at this person and wondering where they came from, what they do, what they care about, what they're interested in, and to just always have that sense of joy in discovering to discover and to be curious.